Imagine this. A powerful millionaire, always busy, always away, finally decided to come home early one evening. He expected the usual quiet house, loyal family, the life he thought his fortune had secured. But the moment he walked through that door, his entire world changed. What he saw left him frozen in shock, a scene so unbelievable, it would test everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and trust. This isn't just a story about wealth or power. It's about what money can't buy and the painful truths that sometimes hide in plain sight. And believe me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because the twist in this story is something no one could have ever imagined. Before we dive in, I just want to thank you for stopping by. Your time here means the world to us. If you enjoy powerful, emotional stories that make you think and feel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. We've got so many more incredible stories coming your way, and you won't want to miss a single one. Now, let's step inside that mansion and uncover the shocking truth the millionaire never saw coming. The millionaire came home early and couldn't believe his eyes. Alejandro Hernandez was used to getting home after 9 p.m. when everyone was already asleep. But today, the meeting with investors in Mexico City had ended earlier than expected, and he decided to go straight home without telling anyone. As he opened the front door of his mansion in the Los Feliz neighborhood, Alejandro stopped and couldn't process what he was seeing. In the middle of the living room, there was Lupita, a 28-year-old housekeeper, kneeling on the wet floor with a rag in her hand. But that wasn't what left him paralyzed. It was the scene beside her. His son, Mateo, just 4 years old, was standing with his small purple crutches, holding a kitchen rag, and trying to help the young woman clean the floor. "At Lepida, I can clean this part right here," the blond boy said, stretching his little arm with difficulty. "Don't worry, Mateo. You've already helped me so much today. How about you sit on the sofa while I finish?" Lupita responded in a gentle voice that Alejandro had never heard before. "But I want to help. You always say we're a team." The boy insisted, trying to balance better on his crutches. Alejandro stood there unnoticed, observing the scene. There was something about that interaction that moved him in a way he couldn't explain. Mateo was smiling, something the businessman rarely saw at home. "Okay, my little helper, but just a little bit more," Lupita said, accepting the boy's help. It was then that Mateo saw his father standing in the doorway. His little face lit up, but there was a mix of surprise and fear in his blue eyes. "Dad, you're home early," the boy exclaimed, trying to turn quickly and almost losing his balance. Lupita stood up startled, dropping the rag to the floor. She quickly wiped her hands on her apron and lowered her head. "Good evening, Mr. Alejandro. I didn't know you were home. I was just finishing up the cleaning," she stammered, clearly nervous. Alejandro was still processing the scene. He looked at his son, who was still holding the rag, and then at Lupita, who looked like she wanted to disappear. "Mateo, what are you doing?" Alejandro asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm helping Aunt Lupita, Dad." "Look." Mateo took a few wobbly steps toward his father, proud. "Today, I was able to stand on my own for almost 5 minutes." Alejandro looked at Lupita, searching for an explanation. The employee's head was still down, and she was nervously twisting her ants. 5 minutes. Alejandro repeated, surprised. "How is that?" "Lupita teaches me exercises every day. She says that if I practice a lot, someday I'll be able to run like the other kids." Mateo explained enthusiastically. Silence filled the room. Alejandro felt a mix of emotions he couldn't identify. Anger, gratitude, confusion. He looked at Lupita again. "Exercises?" he questioned. Lupita finally looked up, her brown eyes full of fear. "Mr. Alejandro, I was just playing with Mateo. I didn't mean to do anything wrong. If you want, I can dash. And Lupita is the best." Mateo interrupted, moving quickly to get between the two adults. "Dad, Aunt Lupita is the best. She doesn't give up on me when I cry because it hurts. She says I'm strong like a warrior." Alejandro felt something tighten in his chest. When was the last time he had seen his son so excited? When was the last time he had talked with him for more than 5 minutes? "Mateo, go to your room." "I need to talk to Lupita," Alejandro said. trying to sound firm but gentle. But Dad, now Mateo. The boy looked at Lupita, who gave him an encouraging smile and a signal that everything was okay. Mateo limped away on his crutches, but before he disappeared up the stairs, he yelled, "Aunt Lupita is the best person in the world." Alejandro and Lupito were left alone in the living room. The businessman approached, noticing for the first time that the employee's blue pants had wet stains on the knees and her hands were red from scrubbing the floor. "How long has this been going on?" he asked. "The exercises. How long have you been doing exercises with Mateo?" Lupita hesitated before answering. "Since I started working here, sir, about 6 months ago. But I swear I never stopped doing my job because of it. I do the exercises with him during my lunch break or after I finish everything. You don't get paid extra for that," Alejandro observed. "No, sir. And I'm not asking for anything. I like playing with Mateo. He's a special boy." "Special? How?" Lupita seemed surprised by the question. "What do you mean, sir?" "You said he's special." Special like Lupita's smile for the first time since Alejandro had arrived. "He's determined, sir. Even though the exercises are difficult and he wants to cry, he doesn't give up, and he has a huge heart. He's always worried if I'm tired or sad. He's a very loving child." Alejandro felt that pressure in his chest again. When was the last time he had stopped to notice those qualities in his own son? Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and above all subscribe to the channel. This helps those of us who are just starting out. Now, let's continue in the exercises. How do you know what to do? Alejandro continued. Lupita lowered her head again. "I have experience with that, sir." "What kind of experience?" There's a long pause. Lupita seemed to be struggling with what to say. "My younger brother, Carlos, was born with leg problems. I also spent my entire childhood taking him to physical therapy, learning exercises, and helping him walk. When I saw Mateo, I couldn't just stand by and watch him be sad." "Sad?" "Sir, with all due respect, little Mateo is very lonely. Mrs. Gabriela is. Always busy with her friends. And you work a lot, so I thought maybe you could help." Alejandro completed. "Yes, sir. But if you don't want me to, I'll stop immediately. I just wanted to." "What did you want, Lupita?" She looked up, and for the first time, Alejandro saw determination in her eyes. "I wanted him to smile more, sir. A child should smile every day." Alejandro was silent for a moment. He thought about how many times he had seen Mateo smile in the last few weeks. He couldn't remember any. "Where's Gabriela?" He asked. "Mrs. Gabriela went out to dinner with her friends. She said she would be back late. And you stayed here with Mateo?" "Yes, sir. He had dinner, took a bath. We did the exercises, and I was just finishing up the cleaning because he spilled juice in the living room. He wanted to help me clean." Alejandro looked around the room, noticing for the first time how everything was spotless. The furniture gleamed. There wasn't a speck of dust anywhere, and even the plants seemed livelier. "Lupita, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course, sir." "Why do you work as a housekeeper? You clearly have knowledge of physical therapy. You're good with children. You're dedicated. Why don't you work in a healthcare field?" The question took Lupita by surprise. "What do you mean, sir?" "You said I'm good with children." Lupita smiled sadly. "Because I don't have a diploma, sir. I learned everything by taking care of my brother, but that doesn't count for anything official. And I need to work to support my family." "Your family?" "My mom and my brother Carlos. He's 16 now. He studies in the morning and works in a small store in the afternoon. My mom cleans offices at night. We get by however we can." Alejandro felt a strange mixture of admiration and shame. Here was a 28-year-old woman working hard to support her family and still finding the time and energy to care for her son with love and dedication. "And you never thought about studying, taking a physical therapy course?" Lupita laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "With what money, sir?" "With what time? I leave the house at 6 a.m., take 2 buses to get here by 7:30, work until 6 p.m., and take 2 buses back. I get home at 8, help my brother with his homework, make dinner, and by the time I go to sleep, it's almost midnight. On weekends, I clean other houses to earn extra money. Alejandro was silent, absorbing the information. He had no idea about the life of his housekeeper beyond the 8 hours she spent in his house. Lupita, can I see the exercises you do with Mateo now? Yes, sir, if you want. Lupita hesitated. He's already in his pajamas, sir. And we usually do the exercises in the morning before his online classes. In the morning? Yes, sir. I arrive at 7:30, prepare Mateo's breakfast, and while you are still sleeping, we do an exercise session in the garden. Afterward, he takes a bath, has breakfast, and is ready for his classes. Alejandro realized that he knew nothing about his own son's routine. He left the house at 7 o'clock in the morning and always came home after 9 at night. On weekends, he was usually in his home office or at business meetings, and he likes these exercises. He adores them, sir. At first, it was difficult because he felt pain, but now he asks to do them himself. Yesterday, he managed to stand without his crutches for almost 3 minutes straight. 3 minutes. Alejandro's eyes widened, but the physical therapist said that would still take months to happen. Lupita blushed. Maybe Mateo is more motivated now, sir. Motivated because he wants to impress me? She hesitated. He wants to impress you, too. Impress me? He's always talking about you, Mr. Alejandro. He says that when he can walk well, he'll be able to work with you when he grows up. He says he wants to be just like his dad. Alejandro's eyes welled up. He had no idea that Mateo thought of him that way. At that moment, they heard footsteps on the stairs. It was Mateo coming down slowly with his crutches. "Dad, are you still here?" he said, relieved. "Mate, you should be sleeping," Alejandro said, but without a scolding tone. "I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking. You're not going to fire Aunt Lupita, are you?" The question took Alejandro by surprise. "Why do you think I would fire her?" "Because you were serious when you told me to go upstairs. And Mom always gets angry when the employees do things she didn't tell them to." Alejandro looked at Lupita, who had looked down again. "Mateo, come here," Alejandro said, kneeling down to his son's level. The boy approached, leaning on his crutches. "Do you like Lupita a lot?" "She's my best friend." "Why is she your best friend, Mateo?" He thought for a moment. "Because she plays with me. She listens to me when I talk, and she's never in a hurry when I take a long time to do things. And she believes that I'll be able to walk just like the other kids." "And am I your friend too?" Alejandro asked, feeling his heart take. Mateo hesitated, and Alejandro saw a sadness in his son's face that cut him like a knife. "You're my dad, not my friend," Mateo said softly. "Dads are important, but friends are the ones who are with you." Alejandro felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. He looked at Lupita, who was also visibly emotional. "Mateo, I would really like to be your friend. Would you teach me how to?" Mateo's eyes lit up. "Really, Dad? Really? Really? Yes. Really? Really? Then you have to play with me, listen to my stories, and come see my exercises with Aunt Lupita." Alejandro smiled, feeling emotion he hadn't experienced in years. "It's a deal. Tomorrow morning, I want to see those exercises." "Really?" Mateo jumped for joy, almost losing his balance. "Aunt Lupita, did you hear? Dad is going to watch our exercises." Lupita smiled, but Alejandro noticed a look of concern in her eyes. "Mr. Alejandro, you are not usually home in the mornings." "I'll be here tomorrow," Alejandro said firmly. "In fact, I think I need to reconsider some priorities." Mateo hugged his father, still leaning on his crutches. "Dad, now I have 2 best friends, you and Aunt Lupita." Alejandro hugged his son, feeling a love so strong it almost suffocated him. How had he allowed this wonderful child to slip away from his life? Now go to sleep, champion. Tomorrow will be a special day. After Mateo went up, Alejandro turned to Lupita. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what, sir?" "For taking care of my son when I didn't know how to." Lupita smiled shyly. "He's a special boy, sir. Anyone would fall in love with him, but not just anyone would dedicate their free time to helping him, and not just anyone would have the patience and knowledge that you have. Mr. Alejandro, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Really? Tomorrow morning?" Alejandro paused to think. He had 3 meetings scheduled before 9 a.m. He had a video call with investors from the United States at 8 o'clock. He had a report to finish before noon. Yes, he said, surprising himself. I'll be here. That night, Alejandro went up to his room, thinking about the conversation. Gabriela had not yet arrived, so he took the opportunity to go into Mateo's room. The boy was sleeping, but his crutches were carefully propped up on the nightstand, ready for the next day. Alejandro sat on the edge of the bed and watched his son sleep. How had this child grown so much without him realizing it? When had Mateo become this brave and determined person? He took out his cell phone and canceled the 3 meetings for the next morning. Then he wrote an email explaining that the video call would have to be rescheduled. For the first time in his career, Alejandro was putting family first. When Gabriela arrived home around 11 p.m., Alejandro was waiting for her in the living room. "You're home early today," she said, taking off her shoes. "What happened?" "Gabriela, we need to talk about." She sat on the sofa next to him. "About Mateo, about our family, about what's happening in this house." Gabriela sighed. "Alejandro, if this is about more doctors for Mateo, I already told you that it's not about doctors. It's about Lupita, the employee. What about her? Did you know she does therapy exercises with Mateo every day?" Gabriela looked away. "I knew. And why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would worry about responsibilities, lawsuits, all those things you always worry about." "Gabriela, she's helping our son walk better." "I know. Alejandro." Gabriela burst out. "Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I don't see Mateo's happier? Do you think I don't notice his progress? Then why didn't you tell me?" Gabriela got up and started walking around the room. "Because you're never here, Alejandro. Because when you are, you want to know if Mateo took his medicine, if he went to therapy, if he did his schoolwork. You never asked if he laughed today, if he had fun, if he was happy." Alejandro was silent, absorbing his wife's words. "And Lupita," Gabriela continued. "Lupita makes Mateo smile. She makes him believe he can achieve anything. So I let her continue because my son needs that. Why didn't you ever tell me you felt that way?" Gabriela stopped walking and looked at her husband. "Alejandro, when was the last time we talked about something that wasn't work or Mateo's doctors?" Alejandro tried to remember, but he couldn't. "I don't remember." "Me neither. And do you know why? Because you're not here. Physically, maybe, but mentally, you're always in the office, on the phone, on the computer. I raised Mateo alone, Alejandro, and Alipita is helping me do it." Alejandro felt the guilt expand in his chest. "I didn't know you felt that way, because you never asked." They remained silent for a few minutes. Alejandro processed everything that had happened that day. First, the revelation about Lupita and Mateo. Now, the revelation about his own negligence as a father and husband. "Gabriela, I want to change that." "Change what?" "Everything. I want to be present in Mateo's life, in your life. I want us to be a real family." Gabriela looked at him skeptically. "Alejandro, you said that before. Do you remember when Mateo was born? When he was diagnosed? You always say you would change, but work is always first. This time is different." "Why?" "Because today I saw my son for the first time. I really saw him. And I realized that if I don't do something now, I won't miss the most important years of his life." Gabriela sighed. "Alejandro, I want to believe you, but I need actions, not words." "Then, tomorrow morning, come and see. I'm going to watch the exercises that Lupita does with Mateo. You can lead your meetings." "I can lead them." Gabriela's eyes widened. In 15 years of marriage, she had never seen Alejandro cancel meetings for family reasons. Maybe it really is different this time," she murmured. "It will be, I promise you." The next morning, Alejandro woke up at 6:30, showered, and put on casual clothes, something he rarely did on a weekday, and went down to the kitchen. Lupita was already there preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Lupita," he said, surprising the employee. "Good morning, Mr. Alejandro. You're up early today." "I am." "Where's Mateo?" "He's still sleeping, sir. He usually wakes up at 7:30. "And what time do you do the exercises?" "At 8, sir." "After his breakfast?" Alejandro looked at the clock. 7:15. Can I help with anything? Lupita looked surprised. Sir, the breakfast. Can I help prepare it? Oh, of course, sir. Mateo likes pancakes on Mondays. Pancakes? I didn't know that. Lupita smiled. He says he needs extra energy to start the week with the exercises. Alejandro watched Lupita prepare the pancake batter, noticing the care with which she did everything. She wasn't just preparing food. She was preparing something special for Mateo. Lupita, can I ask you a question? Of course, sir. Why do you care so much about Mateo? Lupita stopped stirring the batter and thought for a moment. Mr. Alejandro, when I was a child, I saw my brother Carlos being rejected by other children because of his difficulties. I saw the sadness in his eyes when he wanted to play but couldn't keep up. When I look at Mateo, I see the same look that Carlos had when he was little. And what did you do for your brother? I was his best friend. I invented games he could participate in. I encouraged him to try new things. I celebrated every one of the small victories as if it were the greatest achievement in the world. And it worked. Lupita smiled and Alejandro saw pride in her eyes. It worked. Today, Carlos is in his second year of high school. He works, helps support the family, and is one of the most determined people I know. He still has limitations, but he never lets that stop him from living. And you want the same for Mateo? I want him to be happy, Mr. Enrique. I want him to believe that he can achieve anything. Because with this privileged family he has, with all the love and support you can give, he can go much further than my brother ever dreamed of. Alejandro again felt that mix of admiration and shame. Lupita was right. Mateo had every advantage in the world, and yet he was sad and lonely because he lacked what mattered most, attention and love from his parents. At that moment, Mateo appeared in the kitchen, still in his pajamas and with his crutches. Dad, he shouted in surprise. You didn't go to work. Good morning, champion. I'm staying here today to watch your exercises, remember? Mateo grinned from ear to ear. Really? You're going to see how strong I am. Of course I am. But first, let's have breakfast. Lupita made special pancakes for you. During breakfast, Alejandro watched the interaction between Mateo and Lupita. They talked like old friends, laughing it inside. Jokes and planning the day's exercises. Mateo was beaming, talking nonstop about things he wanted to show his father. Dad, did you know I can already go up 3 stairs without my crutches? 3 stairs? That's incredible. And I know how to do stretches like a grown-up. What kind of stretches? Aunt Lupita taught me. She says it's important to prepare your muscles before exercising. Alejandro looked at Lupita, impressed. She really knew what she was doing. At 8 o'clock sharp, they went out to garden. Gabriela had also come down and was watching from the kitchen window. Alejandro noticed that she seemed curious to see how he would react to the exercises. Okay, Mateo, Lupita said, spreading a mat on the grass. Let's start with the stretches. Yes, Dad. Sit here next to me to watch. Alejandro sat on the grass, something he hadn't done in years. Mateo lay down on the mat and began to do stretching movements that surprised Alejandro with her precision and seriousness. Very good, Mateo. Now, we're going to work on balance, said Lupita. She helped Mateo stand up and place his crutches beside him. Remember what we practiced? You're going to try to stand without crutches for 30 seconds. If you do it tomorrow, we'll try for 45. Can I try a whole minute? Let's take it easy. 30 seconds is very good. Mateo let go of his crutches and stood on his own. Alejandro held his breath. The boy was shaking a little, clearly straining to stay balanced, but he was doing it. 15 seconds. Lupita counted. You're doing very well. Dad, are you watching? Mateo asked without taking his eyes off a fixed point in front of him. I'm watching, son. You're incredible. 25 seconds. Lupita continued. Almost there. 30, Mateo shouted. And at that moment, he lost his balance and began to fall. Lupita quickly held him, preventing the fall. I did it. I made it to 30 seconds. Mateo was radiant. Alejandro was emotional. He got up and went to hug his son. Mateo, that was fantastic. I'm so proud of you. Now you understand why I love exercising with Aunt Lupita. I understand perfectly. They continue with the exercises for another 30 minutes. Lupita guided Mateo through different activities, walks with his crutches, leg strengthening exercises, and balance practices. Alejandro was impressed with her knowledge and infinite patience. When they finished, Mateo was tired but happy. Aunt Lupita, tomorrow can I try 45 seconds without crutches? Of course, but now let's go get you bathed and ready for online classes. Dad, are you to be here tomorrow too? Alejandro looked at Lupita and then at his son. Yes, I'll be here. In fact, I was thinking, what if I stayed here every morning to watch her exercises? Mateo hugged his dad so hard he almost knocked him over. Really? Every day? Every day? Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and above all subscribe to the channel. This helps those of us who are just starting out. Now let's continue. That afternoon, after Mateo finishes online classes, Alejandro called Lupita for a private conversation in his office. Lupita, I want to make you a proposal. What kind of proposal? Sir, I want you to become Mateo's official therapeutic companion. Lupita's eyes widened. Sir, you have knowledge of physical therapy. You have a special connection with my son, and he trusts you completely. I would like to formalize this, but sir, I don't have a diploma. We'll solve that. Would you like to take a physical therapy course? Lupita was silent for a long moment. Mr. Alejandro, that would be a dream, but I have no way of if I paid for the course. Would you do it? You would pay for my studies. I would pay for the course, the books, the transportation, and you would continue to receive your regular salary. In fact, I would increase your salary since your responsibilities would be greater. Lupita started to cry. Mr. Alejandro, I don't know what to say. Say yes. Mateo needs you and you deserve to have the opportunity to study what you love. But what about the housework, the other tasks? We'll hire another person for the housework. Your focus would be exclusively on Mateo. Lupita couldn't stop crying. Why are you doing this? Because last night I realized I almost lost opportunity to get to know my own son. And this morning I saw that you were giving him something that I didn't know how to give him, hope and confidence. I want you to continue doing that, but in an official and recognized capacity. What if I don't pass the course? You will. I'm sure of it. Lupita wiped away her tears and looked at Alejandro with determination. Then I accept, Mr. Alejandro. I will study hard and do the best job I can with Mateo. I know you will. In the days that followed, the routine of the house changed completely. Alejandro started leaving the house later, participating in Mateo's morning exercises. He canceled several meetings to be present for his son's important moments. Mateo was radiant with his dad's presence. His progress in the exercises accelerated, motivated by the attention he was receiving. In 1 week, he managed to stand for a whole minute without crutches. In 2 weeks, he managed to take 5 steps in a row without support. Gabriella watched these changes with a mixture of joy and caution. She was happy to see her husband more present, but she was still afraid that it would be temporary. One morning during the exercises, Mateo achieved something no one expected. He let go of his crutches and walked 8 steps until he reached his dad. Dad, I walked. I walked by myself, Mateo shouted, throwing himself into Alejandro's arms. Alejandro was crying with emotion. You did it, champion. You really did it. Lupita was also crying, proud of Mateo's progress. And Lupita, did you see? I walked. Yes, I saw my warrior. You are incredible. Gabriella had run out of the house when she heard the shouts and arrived just in time to see Mateo take a few more steps without support. Oh my God, Mateo, she cried, hugging her son. That night, after Mateo fell asleep, Alejandro and Gabriella talked about the changes that were happening. Alejandro, I need to admit something. Gabriella said, What? I was thinking about leaving you. Alejandro felt his world collapse. What? I felt lonely, Alejandro. I felt like I was raising Mateo alone while you lived for your work. I couldn't take it anymore. And now I see a different man. I see the father I always wanted you to be, the husband I married. But I need to know if this is going to last. Alejandro took his wife's hand. Gabriela, I almost lost the two most important people in my life because of work. That's not going to happen again. I promise you. How can you be sure? Because I discovered that nothing is worth more than seeing my son walking towards me smiling. No business deal, no money, nothing is worth that. A few weeks later, Alejandro made another discovery about Lupita. He came home early and found her crying. In the garden. Lupita, what happened? Nothing, Mr. Alejandro. Everything is fine. Clearly it's not. What happened? Lupita hesitated before answering. It's just that one of Mrs. Gabriela's friends came this morning. She wasn't very nice to me. What do you mean? She said that I was taking advantage of your kindness, that I was trying to get involved where I wasn't wanted. She said that the employee should stay in her place. Alejandro felt anger rising within him. Who was it? It's not necessary, sir. Lupita. Who was it? Mrs. Sophia, a friend of Mrs. Gabriela's. Alejandro knew Sophia, the arrogant and prejudiced woman who always strove to show her social superiority. What else did she say? She said I was confusing things, that Mateo wasn't my son, and that I should stop acting like his mother. She said that people like me should know our place. Alejandro was boiling with rage. Lupita, you know that's not true, don't you? Yes, sir, but it hurt to hear it. And the worst thing is that Mateo was nearby and heard everything. He got very upset and defended me. It was embarrassing. Mateo defended you. He told Mrs. Sophia that I was the best person in the world and that she couldn't be mean to me. He got very upset. Alejandro smiled despite his anger. He was right, and I'm going to resolve the situation. Mr. Alejandro, please don't make a big deal out of this. I don't want to cause problems between Mrs. Gabriela and her friends. Lupita, you're not causing any problems. The problem is a lack of education from people who think they are superior to others. That night, Alejandro talked to Gabriela about the incident. Gabriela, Sophia was here today. Yes. Why? She was disrespectful to Lupita. What do you mean? Alejandro told her what had happened. Gabriela was visibly annoyed. I didn't know that. If I had, I would have kicked her out of the house immediately. Mateo heard everything and felt very bad. My God, poor Mateo. He adores Lupita. Gabriela, I don't want this kind of person in our house anymore. If your friends can't treat our employees with respect, they are not welcome here. I completely agree. I'll talk to Sophia tomorrow and make it very clear that this behavior is not acceptable. The next day, something unexpected happened. Alejandro was in his office when he received a call from an acquaintance. Enrique Gutierrez, the owner of a rival company. Alejandro, I heard that you have an exceptional housekeeper over there. Why do you want to know that, Enrique? Sophia told me she's very good with special needs children. Coincidentally, my grandson has cerebral palsy, and we are looking for someone qualified to take care of him. I'd like to make her a proposal. Alejandro felt a pit in his stomach. What kind of proposal? Double what you pay plus benefits. A car at her disposal. Full health insurance for her and her family. What do you think, Alejandro? Lupita is not for sale. Alejandro, be reasonable. Everyone has a price, and from what I heard, she's just the housekeeper there. For me, she would be an official therapeutic companion. She is already our official therapeutic companion. Oh, really? Sophia didn't mention that. Well, even so, my proposal still stands. Can you give me her number? No, Enrique. Alejandro, the answer is no. Lupita is part of our family. If you change your mind, call me. Alejandro hung up the phone worried. He knew that Enrique would not give up easily, and he also knew that the proposal was truly tempting for someone in Lupita's financial situation. He decided not to comment on the call, but he was attentive in the following days. His concern was justified when 3 days later, Lupita asked to speak with him. Mr. Alejandro, I received a job offer. Alejandro's heart raced. What kind of offer? To work as a therapeutic companion for the Gutierrez family. They offered well. They offered much more than what I earn here. Do you want to accept? Lupita was silent for a long moment. Mr. Alejandro, I don't know what to do. The money would make a huge difference for my family. My mom could stop working at night. My brother could dedicate himself only to his studies. But I can't imagine leaving Matteo. He has become very important to me. And you have become very important to him, too. I know, and that's what's tearing me apart. I have obligations to my family, but I also feel responsible for Matteo. Alejandro thought carefully before answering. Lupita, I'm not going to try to influence your decision, but I can ask you a few questions. Of course. Are you happy working here? Very happy. Do you feel like you have opportunities for growth here with the physical therapy course you are paying for? Yes. And Matteo, how do you think he would react if you left? Lupita sighed. He would be devastated. Just yesterday, he was talking about the plans we have for when he can run without crutches. So what is your real doubt? The money, Mr. Alejandro. My family needs it very much. Alejandro nodded. I understand. How much did they offer you? Lupita said the amount, and Alejandro was surprised. It was a truly significant sum. Lupita, can I make you a counteroffer? What do you mean? I can match the salary they offered in addition to keeping the benefits we already have. The physical therapy course, the health insurance, and I can include health insurance for your mom and your brother, too. Lupita's eyes widened. Mr. Alejandro, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Matteo needs you, and you deserve to be valued for the exceptional work you do. But that's a lot of money. Lupita, you saved my marriage and helped me reconnect with my son. What is that worth? Lupita started to cry. Mr. Alejandro, I don't know what to say. Say you're going to stay. I'm going to stay. Of course, I'm going to stay. That afternoon, Matteo was playing in the garden when he saw Lupita tidying up her things. He ran to her worried. Aunt Lupita, are you leaving? No, my love. I'm staying here with you forever. For a long, long time. Matteo hugged Lupita tightly. That's good because I still have a lot of things to learn from you. And when I can run, I'm going to run to you every day. And I'll be here waiting, my warrior. A few weeks later, something happened that no one expected. Matteo was doing his morning exercises when he achieved something extraordinary. He ran. It wasn't many meters, but it was a few consecutive steps at a faster speed than walking. Dad and Lupita, I ran, Matteo shouted, beaming with joy. Alejandro and Lupita ran to him excited. Matteo, that was incredible. Alejandro said, hugging his son. My warrior became an athlete, said Lepida, hugging him too. It hurt, but now I can play with the other kids on equal terms. Yes, you can, my love. You can do anything you want. That night, Alejandro reflected on everything that had happened in the last few months. He had almost lost his family because of work, but a dedicated housekeeper had saved not only his son, but the entire family dynamic. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and above all subscribe to the channel. This helps those of us who are just starting out. Now let's continue. A few months later, the day of Matteo's preschool graduation arrived. It was a special event where the children would show their skills and talents. Alejandro had canceled all his commitments to be present. Dad, are you sure you can come? Matteo asked the morning of the graduation. I'm absolutely sure, champion. I wouldn't miss it for the world. And is Aunt Lupita going to be there too? Of course she is. We're your official cheer squad. At the school, Matteo was nervous. He had prepared a special presentation where he would show how he had overcome his motor difficulties. Aunt Lupita, what if I fall in front of everyone? He asked as he got ready. Matteo, you have fallen many times during our training, and you have always gotten up. If you fall today, you'll also get up, but I bet you're not going to fall. Why are you so sure? Because you are the most determined child I know, and because you train a lot for this moment. When it was Matteo's turn to present, he walked to the center of the stage without his crutches. The audience was silent, realizing that this was something special. My name is Matteo Hernandez. He began in a firm voice. When I was younger, I couldn't walk well. I needed crutches, and I was afraid to try new things. Alejandro and Gabriela were emotional in the audience. Lupita was by their side, equally moved, but then I met someone very special. Matteo continued, Aunt Lupita taught me that when you train and don't give up, You can achieve anything. She taught me to be strong, to be brave, and to believe in myself. Mateo then did something that surprised everyone. He ran from one end of the stage to the other, without stumbling, without hesitating, with perfect balance. I want to dedicate this race to 3 people, Mateo said out of breath, but smiling. To my dad, who learned to be my best friend, to my mom, who always took care of me, and Aunt Lupita, who taught me that I can fly if I want to. The audience erupted in applause. Alejandro was openly crying, as were Gabriela and Lupita. And now Mateo continued, I want to show you something I learned. Aunt Lupita, come here. Lupita was surprised, but Mateo called to the stage. This is Lupita. Mateo told the audience. She is the most important person in my life after my parents. She believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. And I want to tell everyone that she is the best teacher in the world. Mateo hugged Lupita on stage, and the audience gave him a standing ovation. Alejandro and Gabriela also went up to the stage to hug Mateo and Lupita. Dad, Mateo said, still on stage, can you tell everyone something? What, son? That Aunt Lupita isn't just our employee anymore. She's our family. Alejandro took the microphone. My son is right, he said with an emotional voice. Lupita is not just our employee. She is part of our family. She saved my son. She saved my marriage. And she taught me what really matters in life. The audience applauded again, and Lupita was crying with emotion. After the presentation, several people from the school approached Alejandro and Gabriela to congratulate Mateo and to meet Lupita. Many parents of children with special needs want to know about the method she used. You should think about opening a therapy center, one of the mothers suggested. There are many children who could benefit from Lupita's work. Alejandro looked at Lupita, who was animatedly talking with other mothers about exercises and motivational techniques. You know, Gabriela, he said to his wife, maybe that's not a bad idea. What do you mean? A therapy center specializing in children with Lupita as a coordinator after she graduates. Would you invest in that? I would. And do you know why? Because I saw firsthand how her work can transform the life of a child and an entire family. That night at home, Alejandro called Lupita to talk. Lupita, can I ask you a crazy question? Of course. Mr. Alejandro, would you like to have your own therapy center someday? Lupita laughed. Mr. Alejandro, that's too big of a dream for someone like me. Why do you say that? Because opening a therapy center requires a lot of money, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. I'm still learning. What if I told you that I'm willing to invest in that dream? Lupita stopped smiling. What do you mean? I'm thinking of opening a therapy center for children with special needs. A place where every child receives the same kind of attention and care that you gave Mateo. And I would like you to be the therapeutic director. Mr. Alejandro, this is completely serious. Of course, you would have to finish your university degree first, maybe get some specializations, but the project can develop little by little. And Mateo will continue to be your priority. In fact, he could be a kind of ambassador for the center, showing other children that it is possible to overcome difficulties. Lupita was silent for a long moment. Mr. Alejandro, if this really happens, it would be the biggest dream of my life coming true. Then let's make it happen. 2 years later, the Lou Desperate of Hope Children's Therapy Center was being inaugurated. It was a modern, colorful place with state-of-the-art equipment and a team of dedicated professionals. Lupita, now a graduate in physical therapy with specializations in pediatrics, was a therapeutic director. Mateo, now 6 years old and running normally, was at the inauguration as a special guest. He had become the symbol of the center, inspiring other children with his story of overcoming challenges. Aunt Lupita, Mateo said, running to her on the day of the inauguration, "You did it. You have your own place to help children." "I did it, my warrior. And do you know who inspired me to never give up? A brave little boy who taught me that when you believe and work hard, dreams come true." Alejandro watched the scene with pride. His company now had a new focus. In addition to traditional business, he had created a social responsibility division that supported projects like the Therapy Center. Alejandro, Gabriella said, approaching him. Do you regret anything? I regret taking so long to understand what really matters. But I don't regret anything we did after I learned the lesson. And what was the lesson? That sometimes the most important people in our lives arrive unexpectedly, and that love and dedication are worth more than any amount of money. Mateo ran toward his parents, radiant with joy. Dad, Mom, did you see how many kids came today? Aunt Lupita said she's going to help them all get strong like me. Yes, we saw, son. And do you know what the best part is? What? It's that all of this started because one special person decided to believe in you when you needed it most. Mateo smiled and looked at Lupita, who was talking to other children's parents. Dad, can I tell you a secret? Of course. I always knew that Aunt Lupita was special. From the very first day, I felt that she was going to change our lives. And how did you know? Because she looked at me as if I were normal, not as if I were broken. She looked at me as if I could achieve anything. Alejandro smiled, realizing that his son, even at such a young age, had understood something that had taken him as an adult so long to understand that the true value of a person is not in what they have, but in what they are capable of giving to others. A few months after the center's inauguration, Alejandro received an unexpected call. It was from Enrique Gutierrez, the businessman who had tried to steal Lupita years earlier. Alejandro, I need to talk to you. About what? Enrique? About the therapy center you opened? My grandson has been a patient there for 3 months. Oh, really? And how has he been doing? That's why I'm calling. It's extraordinary. Alejandro, in 3 months, my grandson has made progress he didn't achieve in 2 years of traditional therapy. Alejandro smiled. Lupita really is exceptional. It's more than that. Her whole team is different. They don't treat children like patients. They treat them as unique and special human beings. My grandson is happy for the first time since the accident. I'm very glad to hear that. Alejandro, I need to apologize. Why? For trying to take Lupita from you years ago. Back then, I only saw her as a skilled employee. I didn't understand that she was part of your family, that there was a much deeper connection. I understand now that she was in the right place with the right people. If I had managed to take her back then, maybe she never would have had the opportunity to develop as she did with you. Maybe. Anyway, I wanted to thank you for not letting me make that mistake. And I want to congratulate you for seeing her potential before any of us did. After hanging up the phone, Alejandro reflected on the conversation. It was curious how things had unfolded. If he had let Lupita go back then, several lives would have been different. Mateo might not have developed as he did. His marriage to Gabriella might not have been saved, and dozens of children who are now being treated at the center would not have the opportunity to grow with the same care and attention. That afternoon, when Mateo got home from school, Alejandro was waiting for him in the garden, the same place where everything had begun years earlier. Dad, you're home early today? That's right. I wanted to talk to you about something. About what? About that day when I came home and saw you helping Lupita clean the floor. Mateo smiled. I remember that day. You were surprised because you had never seen me do exercises. Exactly. And do you know what I was thinking at that moment? What? I was thinking that you were the bravest child I had ever seen. There you were with all your difficulties trying to help someone who was taking care of you. But it was normal to help Aunt Lupita. She always helped me. Exactly. And that's what made me realize who you really were. You weren't just a child with limitations. You were a generous, determined, and loving child. And now I know that day changed our family forever because it was when I learned to truly see you and when I learned to value people like Lupita. Mateo thought for a moment. Dad, can I tell you something? Of course. That day also changed my life. How? Because it was the first day you looked at me as if I were special in a good way, not special in a sad way. Alejandro felt his eyes fill with tears. Mateo, you have always been special in a good way. I was the one who was slow to realize it. It's okay, Dad. The important thing is that now you know. They were silent for a moment, observing the garden where Mateo had taken his first steps without crutches, where Lupita had spent countless hours teaching and encouraging, where a family had reconnected. Dad, Mateo said, breaking the silence. Yes. Do you think all families have a Lupita? What do you mean? A person who comes and changes everything for the better? Who helps us to be better? Alejandro thought about the question. I don't think all families are lucky enough to find a Lupita, Mateo. But I think all families have the opportunity to be a Lupita for someone. How we can be for other people what Lupita was for us. We can believe in other people when they don't believe in themselves. We can help other people discover what they are capable of. Mateo smiled. Is that what we're doing at Aunt Lupita's Center? Exactly. We are helping other families discover what we discovered. That love and dedication can overcome any obstacle. At that moment, Lupita arrived from work, just as she did every day. Mateo ran to her, as he always did. Aunt Lupita, how was your day at the center? It was wonderful, my warrior. Today, a little girl managed to take her first steps just like you did a few years ago. Really? She was happy. She was radiant. And do you know what she said? What? That she wanted to be strong like Mateo Hernandez. Mateo blushed with pride. She said that. That's right. You'll become an inspiration to many children. You know. Alejandro watched the interaction between Mateo and Lupita, noting how even after all these years, they maintained the same special connection from the first day. Lupita Alejandro said, "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Mr. Alejandro. Do you regret anything? Your decision to stay here when you had other opportunities." Lupita looked at Mateo, then at Alejandro and smiled. "Mr. Alejandro, if I had left, I would have lost the opportunity to see this child become the incredible young man he is today. I would have lost the opportunity to see a family reconnect. And I would have lost the opportunity to fulfill a dream that I didn't even know I had." "What dream?" "The dream of making a difference in the lives of dozens of children, not just one. The dream of having a career that I love, not just a job. The dream of being part of a family that values me for who I am, not just for what I do." Mateo hugged Lupita. "Aunt Lupita, do you know what the best part is?" "What, my love?" "It's that our story isn't over. It's just beginning." "What do you mean?" "Because now you're going to help many children just like you helped me. And I'm going to be there to help too, to show them that it's possible to achieve anything." Lupita looked at Alejandro and Gabriela, who had joined the group in the garden. "You know," she said, "when I was a little girl, my mom always said that God puts the right people in our path at the right time. Back then, I didn't really understand what that meant. And now you do." Gabriela asked, "Now I understand that each of us was exactly where we were supposed to be when we were supposed to be." Mateo needed someone to believe in him. You needed to reconnect as a family. And I needed to discover my purpose in life. "And did you discover it?" Mateo asked. "I did. My warrior. My purpose is to help children and families discover their own strength. And it all began here in this garden with a brave little boy who taught me that the greatest miracles happen when we don't give up." Alejandro looked around, seeing his family gathered in the garden where it had all begun. Mateo, now a healthy and self-confident child. Gabriela, his wife, who had learned to trust in their love again, and Lupita, who had stopped being just an employee and had become a cherished daughter. "Do you know what I learned from all of this?" Alejandro said, "What, Dad?" "That sometimes we think we are giving someone an opportunity, when in reality, it's that person who is giving us the greatest opportunity of our lives." "Opportunity for what?" Mateo asked. "An opportunity to be better. An opportunity to love more. An opportunity to make a difference in the world." Lupita smiled, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. Mr. Alejandro, Lupita said, "The only thing I wanted when I started working here was to support my family. I never imagined that I would gain so much more than that." "What did you gain?" "I gained a second family. I gained a purpose. I gained the opportunity to see that it is possible to transform lives when you act with love." Mateo looked at the three adults around him and smiled. "You know what? I think we should do this every day." "Do what?" Gabriela asked. "Meet here in the garden and remember how lucky we are, because there are a lot of people in the world who don't have what we have." "And what do we have?" Alejandro asked, curious about his son's answer. We have love. We have a family that cares. And we have Aunt Lupita, who is the most special person in the world. Alejandro hugged his son, feeling immense gratitude for everything that had happened. If someone had told him years ago that a housekeeper would completely change his life, he would have laughed. But now he understood that angels don't always arrive with wings. Sometimes they arrive with an apron and a heart full of love. Mateo Alejandro said, "You're right. We're going to do this every day. We're always going to remember how lucky we are. And we're always going to remember." Lupita added that every new day is an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life, just as you all were in mine. As the sun set on the Hernandez family's garden, for people unexpectedly brought together by fate embraced, knowing that their lives have been forever transformed by a seemingly casual encounter between a workaholic businessman, a determined housekeeper, and a child who only needed someone to believe in him. And so, what began as a simple early arrival home was transformed into the most beautiful lesson about family, love, and the transformative power of seeing the best in people, even when they can't yet see it themselves. Enough of story. Now, tell me, what did you think of this touching story? Do you think Alejandro made the right decision to value Lupita? Leave your honest opinion in the comments, and tell me where you're following us from. If you have a similar experience or know someone who went through something like this, share it with us. And don't forget to leave that naughty like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other stories that will move you. Thank you very much for staying with me until the end.